In this demo, let us talk about the program RHPRO FL0. Now, the program RHPRO FL0 will be used by you in a scenario where structural authorizations should be assigned or revoked automatically when a position staffing change takes place. The PD profiles and the structural profiles info type, that is info types 1016 and 1017 for PD profiles and 1016 for standard profiles. These two info types allow you to link authorization profiles with organizational objects such as org units, position or tasks. We had assigned in one of the demos, we had assigned PD profiles using the info type 1017 to a position. So similarly, like you assign the structural profile to a position, you could also assign a manually created profile to a position using the info type 1016. Now, if you use this mechanism of indirectly assigning the standard profiles, which is not recommended, or if you want to indirectly assign the structural profile to a user, you have to use the program, the RHPRO FL0 to complete that process. Now, we had assigned the standard profile, the structure profile to the position using the info type 1016. So we had assigned this profile. Now we can also assign manually created profile or SAP delivered profiles like such as SAP all or SAP new using the info type 1016, which is for standard profiles. Now, in both the cases, once you do that, we have to assign, we have to run the program RHPRO FL0. So what that program does is, using the evaluation path PRO FL0, it assigns the standard profiles or the structure profile that are linked with the position to the user who holds that position. So for example, this position 50001253 is held by the user Chan. So if you go and see somewhere, it will give you the holder name with the relationship E008. So once you run the program RHPRO FL0, this profile will be entered for Chan in the table T77UA. And if you assign a structure profile, a standard profile such as SAP all, once you execute that program RHPRO FL0, the standard profile will be entered in the user's HR master record. So let us check that. So before we check, let us open up another session and do a couple of checks. PD profiles are linked to the user, with the user in the table T77UA. So you can go to the table using the transaction OOSB. So we don't have an entry for Chan here. Let us go and check if SAP is assigned to Chan. Let us enter the user ID Chan and check if any profiles are assigned. SAP all is assigned or not, so it's not. Now, remember in info type 1016, we cannot assign generated profiles, that is the profiles that are linked with the roles, and we cannot assign roles using 1016. So let us go and create, because PD profile is already assigned, let us create an entry for standard profiles, and we'll assign SAP underscore all and save it. So whenever an entry is made for an info type, you have a tick mark against that info type. So standard profile is the info type for info type 1016, and PD profiles is info type 1017. So let us go and execute the program PRFL0 to create authorization profile for a user within an organizational plan. So go to transaction SA38 and let us execute the program RHPRO FL0. Now this report creates authorization profiles for a user within an organizational plan, and it differentiates between standard authorization profiles and authorization profiles for PD authorizations. So that when profiles are generated using profile generator, the user is also assigned the roles that are linked with the user, with that profile. Now, the evaluation path, the program, the report, RHPRO FL0, it searches the system along this evaluation path, PRO FL0, for all the persons in the structure and saves them temporarily. Now, using the persons that this profile collects, using those persons as a basis, the system reads up to the next higher organizational unit, all the related objects for a given date, and that are valid at that point of time, and that have info type 1016 or 1017 appended. Appended meaning all those persons, those who have a record entered in the info type 1016 and 1017, like we just saw for our chance position. Now the system then checks whether users already exists in the system for the persons that are found. So the user checks for the user IDs for those persons. Now that is necessary because users also created in the system cannot be entered info type 105 for that person. That is, they cannot be entered in that info type, communication info type. And if the user has not yet been created in the system, it is created automatically. The authorization profiles for all users found in the organization plan are then entered. So let's go and let's come back, execute the program for the position, and we'll come back to this program again and see what these different options mean, the significance of these options. So let's go and execute. After we execute, we'll check two checks again, like we did in OSB and SA01. Okay. This is in red because there's some problem with SAP. But anyways, we didn't do an update because we had done a test. Let's go and check this test session checkbox. Because of this checkbox, it didn't update that those tables or the user master record. Let's execute it. Now, if you see, everything is in green, which means this profile has been added for this user ID, and this structure profile is linked with this user. So this you can check in SU01, and this you can check in OSB. So let us go to SU01 and check whether Archan has SAP all entered now. So you have SAP all entered for the user. Now let us go and check in OSB if, okay, that's my mistake. OSB, and the structural profile that you entered in info type 1017 is linked with the user ID, and the profile that you entered in info type 1016 SAP underscore all, that also appears in the user master record for Archan. So let us now go and see what these other options mean in the program RH PRO FL0. Now if you generate if this general authorization profile says by these parameters are set, the corresponding standard profiles are changed. So because these two were were marked, that's why we had those entries made in SU01 and OSB. So this checkbox was linked with SAP all to be entered in user master record, and this checkbox is meant for entering the structure profile in T77 UA table. That is what we checked in OSB. So if you do not set this appropriate parameter, the authorization profiles assigned to the users remain unchanged. So which means nothing happens in the system if these parameters are not set. Now you need to use this thing very carefully. These options under delete manually maintain authorization profiles. Now, if delete standard authorization parameters is set, the system deletes all profiles maintained manually for the users through SU01. If it only reassigns the new authorization profiles derived from organizational plan, but an exception is made for the SAP underscore all profile. Now if you want SAP underscore all profile to be deleted, then you must select this checkbox also, this parameter. Only then, if SAP underscore all is assigned to the user master record to the user, it will be removed. So if this parameter is not set, the system only deletes those authorization profiles resulting from a user role according to the current organization plan, and is no longer assigned to the user. And these authorizations profiles are flagged as generated profiles in SU01. So when you go to SU01, you can see them as a generated profile in the profiles tab. So all the other authorization profiles that are maintained manually, that is in info type 1016, whatever profiles you maintain there, like what we did in SAP all, only those profiles remain if you select these options. Now the delete and the PD authorization parameter is set, if this parameter is set, the system deletes all the structural profile that were maintained manually in the table T77UA. Now in our case, we maintained it through 1017. So if we do this, nothing will happen. And the system will not change anything. But had we gone to the transaction OSB and entered the structure profile directly there, then when you select this option under delete manually maintained authorization profiles, the system, this program would remove the entry from T77UA table. So if the parameter is not set, which is the default setting, the system only deletes authorization profiles that were previously assigned by this program. So let us go and check some more options here. Invalid users. You have take into account, if you want to take invalid users which are not in the time responsibility, if you want to take those users into account to make these changes, you can select this checkbox. So if you select include invalid users, the system also selects those users who are no longer valid on the key date, which means whatever key date you enter, the users who are no longer valid on that date will be taken into account, and but those users need to exist, still need to exist in the system, so you cannot delete those user IDs. If you generate new users parameter, if this parameter is set, the system generates users that are assigned to a person in the info type 105 but not yet created in the system. So when you link the partner to a user ID in info type 105, that user ID need not be existing in the system. I mean, you may not have created that user ID using SU01. But in such a scenario where the user ID is not created in SU01 but is linked in to the partner in 105, when you use this option, new users will generate, the user IDs are created in the system. If the transfer relationship period between the person and the user parameter is also set, this one, the system creates the new user with the same validity period that is maintained for the person in 105, the info type. And if this parameter is not set, the system creates the user with a validity period from the key date till the latest date possible, that is 12/31/9999. If you are not stored any authorization profiles in the info type 1016, that is for standard profiles, then you must activate this parameter without assigned basis profile. You use this option, the parameter in the user data box, to assign the initial password and the user group. All messages that were generated during the profile comparison are saved in in an application log. Now this application log is newly created each time this RHPRO FL0 program is run. Now if you want to disable the log, you can uncheck this box. And how do you see those application logs? You can see the application logs using the transaction SLG1. So these are was a demo on the program RHPRO FL0.